All right, we're back for part 2 of our live show today. Martha May's banging on the table, shutting us down. No, I don't know if that's really accurate.
I think we got censored. You know that. I think we got censored.
I know you think that. But part 2, here we go. Are we going to lean into this a little bit more? Let's start with your quote. Can you pull that up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here, let me pull it up. So here's what we're talking about. A true believer, according to our special forces. Somewhere, a true believer is training to kill you. He is training with minimum food or water in austere conditions. He doesn't worry about what workout to do. His rucksack weighs what it weighs, and he runs until the enemy stops chasing him. The true believer doesn't care how hard it is. He knows he either wins or he dies. He doesn't go home at 1700. He is home. He knows only the cause. So that's who we're dealing with over there. I mean, that's what our military is dealing with over there.
All they've ever known is war.
Yeah.
For hundreds of years.
Yeah.
They were raised to fight for their country, their people. That's how do you fight that?
That's the mentality. It's not apples to apples or oranges to oranges kind of mentality at all with anything like that.
You're talking about an ideology that they have that ideologies are dangerous. I guess it's I don't know. I guess I don't want to go down that path of ideologies, but they have an ideology that is different than ours, and I think basically we have to realize that's just the case, and we're not going to win them over by and I mean win them over in the sense of democracy and things like that, not like my religion or our religion or whatever, which is a completely different topic. I mean win them over in the sense of democracy by running and hiding like this in a poor fashion. To me, it's a very dangerous thing to do. You can only you show them the boundaries and then you don't let them cross, period. And that's the only way. Like, we love you guys. We want you to be democracy. It'd be great if you guys could vote and it was legitimate and all these other things. But you cross this line and we're done.
Yep.
Period. And that's the only
slam my hand on the table. No, that's it. Yeah.
Just period. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that.
It's not a war that we would ever win. I just look at it as having some stability in that area of the world.
Yeah.
Trust me, I don't want to send any more troops over there than we have to. Like I said, I don't want to stand at another funeral for our military. But, and I'm not saying that we should be the world police, but there's nobody else that's going to do it. And I would much rather fight that fight over there than have them bring their fight over here. And it scares the crap out of me that with 9/11 coming in a few weeks, I'm worried that fight's going to come here a lot quicker than we think. Especially with what's happening on our southern border. I mean, we don't know who's been sitting there just waiting for this moment.
How vulnerable are we?
And right now, in my opinion, our country looks very weak with how this was done.
For sure.
Look what other countries are thinking of us, and thinking of President Biden and how he stood for that. I mean, look at what those other countries already think of us. You know, the perception that our president has given other countries and how weak we are right now and how he's handled the situation.
Well, there's a lot of things that our country is not handling very well, and they see this as an opportunity to not just this situation, but a lot of other situations.
Strike while the iron is hot.
That's right. Let's do some entertainment news. I gotta say, I'm gonna say this right up. I'm not a country person fan at all. I have a lot of respect for their art, but I hate country music.
Wait, don't you have a country band coming?
Hey,
here?
That's beside the point. It's not for me. It's for other people.
Like me.
You're such a giver.
Like I say, I appreciate the art, but so we're gonna say that first. I'm gonna say that first, and I'm also gonna say that I like what he did here, Garth Brooks. I appreciate what he did. I think it takes a lot of courage to handle it how he did. However, I don't agree with the decision that he made. So here we go.
Wait, what? You just said
Hold on.
you give him credit.
I give him credit for standing up and handling it how he did. I don't think that he should have done it. I wouldn't have made the decision this way myself. That's what I'm saying. I think that this is a fear, and we know his political stance. Look at this. We know his political stance. This literal news article is from the inauguration. So we know where he stands. Who he
But
stands with.
I don't think that that's a positive, or I don't think that that's a for sure, because it surprised a lot of people that he was there.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't what people think his.
No,
political
he's
stance
in the
is.
past. He's in the past. I remember he's more of a left-leaning Democratic.
He's got friends in low places.
Yeah,
Huh?
very well put.
Huh?
Anyway, Garth Brooks is putting his live.
Boom.
Hey,
I know.
hey, we're gonna lose the feed again.
Strap your
Literally,
hands.
we just got a notification that low signal right when you banged on the table.
I'm gonna be sitting on my hands.
Right?
I'm gonna have an X on my forehead, and I'm gonna be sitting on my hands.
Oh boy. The superstar on Wednesday said he's canceling the next 5 stops on his tour, the last of which was supposed to take place October 9th. In July, I sincerely thought the pandemic was falling behind us. Now watching this new wave, I realize we are still in the fight and I must do my part, which is great. I respect that. 100% respect that. Brooks restarted his tour in July, and according to a release, had been set to perform in the cities of Cincinnati, Charlotte, Baltimore, Foxborough, and Nashville. And blah, blah, blah. Nashville was rescheduled for a weather issue anyway. He's hopeful that he can find new dates and that they'll start when this wave is over. And, talks about the joy. He's refunding the money, the joy of seeing people's faces again, and blah, blah, blah. What do you think? I gave you my short answer.
I will chime in on this. So I like Garth Brooks. We saw him at the Target Center a few years ago, like 5th row. It was ridiculous. Beside the point, it was his decision to make. I like the fact that he wasn't forced to make it. He made a personal decision. And it wasn't pushed by the venues or the cities that we know of.
Okay, but look at the cities. Look at the cities.
Cincinnati.
It's, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Charlotte, Baltimore, Foxborough, Nashville. There's only one city on there. Only one.
That's more conservative.
Which one?
And guess what that one that is?
Nashville.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Actually, not. No, there's a lot of implants that have come into there that are turning it a different way.
But right now, at the moment, it is much that the state of Tennessee and the city of Nashville remained open, primarily open,
Yeah.
throughout the whole pandemic.
And maybe,
The other cities have not, and the other cities are starting to put in mandates again.
and maybe that we should have done research to see if the other cities were pushing it or not. But regardless,
They might not have pushed it, but they're starting to put in mandates.
right. And
We know Massachusetts, they just doubled down again.
right.
Baltimore.
Okay.
Well,
So
it's
that's-
probably somewhat of a liability concern too, maybe, because there's some people that.
Good.
Do you know what
We're
I mean?
going down a good place here. Yep. Keep
'Cause,
going.
I mean, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of fans, and I mean, you can. I don't know what the legalities are of that, but I know that there's a lot of people who are.
So
Why are
makes
they?
sense,
But
liabilities.
then so the question is, why should somebody be liable? Why are we such a sue happy,
Well, because technically speaking,
liable?
it's a public health issue. If you want to get technical,
How so?
because it's a communicable disease.
Okay. So can you choose not to go?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I know, like what Craig said, I attended probably the same Garth Brooks concert
Oh, there's 10 of them. So
in Minneapolis.
in a week and a
I mean,
half.
so I'm an avid fan of Garth Brooks, but I don't really care what side of the aisle he falls on politically. I think he's a good person.
I appreciate how he's handled this.
Yeah.
100%.
So but I mean, technically speaking, yeah, everyone has their right not to go. But I think from his standpoint too, just maybe not wanting to even have the burden of that.
How long did he
Issue.
retire for?
I'm not sure.
That was like 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
And
got
then
a
the
different
Chris
spin on
Gaines,
this. So has he lost his fan base that he was
Good.
being proactive? No,
I don't
just
think
wait.
so.
I just Googled this. I'm going to challenge you with that
Well, you
because
should duck go it and not Google it.
has he is there any concern there? Is there any concern there that he couldn't fill a concert or fill that many concerts?
I highly doubt it. He sold out the Target Center 10 shows in like an hour and a
But that
half.
was before the
That was
inauguration.
2 years ago.
That was before the inauguration.
His sales are down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm taking on this is, was there any concern?
And it might not be just him. All sales are down.
Right.
For large venues and stuff.
Right.
They're not selling out like they used to.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Was he being proactive with, instead of having a half sold out show, it kind of goes to the Trump rally down south. They had all these people hyped up to go, and then the numbers weren't there, and it looked really bad in the media afterwards.
I hate to be the bad guy, but isn't it somewhat hypocritical too to put a different spin on it? If everyone's like, if you're saying something like, well, he might have lost fans because of his political affiliation. I mean, in some ways, that's kind of being a little hypocritical too, right? Because if we're judging the entertainer based on his political values, you can't assume that he aligns with something that Biden agrees with. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just to be
Explain them more.
Well, I mean, just to keep it kind of fair. I mean, just because he participated in the inauguration doesn't necessarily mean he supports the policies of the administration. Because that'd be like saying if I came out here and I was Democrat, which I'm not, by the way, so no one attacks me. But if I was, I wouldn't want to be discounted any more than you would want to be with your opinion. Just to put a spin on it. I mean, I think he's a good person personally. And I think
he does good things.
Yeah.
I think
it was real simple.
I mean, depending upon where your beliefs line up in things, whether he's a good person or not is not up to other people. He does good things,
right?
For sure. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hypocritical.
Well, I mean, if we're saying he's lost fans because of his political affiliation, for example, like being at the inauguration, because I was stunned too, personally, as a fan of Garth Brooks. I'm like, why is he at the inauguration singing?
Sure.
Like, why is he aligning with us? But at the same time, I think that's kind of what we're actually talking about right now, isn't it? Like we want to be able to have an open discussion and we don't want to judge anyone for one belief or the other. So if we're just saying like, well, Garth Brooks just happens to maybe identify as a Democrat and he canceled this, and these are cities that are not as conservative, and that's why he canceled, it's kind of making an assumption.
Well,
right?
it's a huge assumption.
Yeah.
It's about thinking. It's about thinking about it. It's not a judgment.
Right.
But I spend my money in places that align more with who I want to, make it or not, I guess, essentially, as businesses.
Right.
And I mean, I don't have really much to spend like on concerts right now, but if I did, I wouldn't go to a country concert.
Well, a good example is like the concerts they have in the park in town here at the Civic Center.
That's hypocritical.
Yeah, there's people
massively hypocritical.
There's people who comment, like they'll be at the concert, like people I know on my Facebook, some of them.
By the way, without masks on.
Yeah.
Right, and they'll be like, "Oh, here's a COVID super spreader," and it's like, "But you're at the COVID super spreader, right?" Because like no one's wearing masks. Like if you want to participate, then participate. But if you don't want to be there, don't go. Like don't make a big post on social media about it. And people are crowded together. And like, I mean, days later is when the mask mandate thing came up.
Yeah, I think our mayor was on video going.
So that's
what a great event
that's
this is.
hypocritical.
Oh yeah, there's
Hundreds
pictures of people I know personally that were, saying all through the pandemic still that they're wearing a mask in the middle of 30 people without a mask on, and at the concert and at Thursdays on First. And I'm like, okay,
that's hypocritical. I'm going to touch back with what you said about Garth playing at the inauguration. And I'm sorry, but if I was invited to go sing for an inauguration in front of our entire country, whether I liked that president or not, I'd probably do it.
So Biden literally had the worst numbers in almost recorded history. So he wasn't playing in front
attendance.
of he wasn't playing in front of the whole country.
Well, but you don't know.
There are literally YouTubers that get more views per show when they're doing 5 shows a week.
Yeah.
Than they got all across the board for the inauguration.
Yeah.
So I got to push back on you.
Oh no, and I hear what you're saying, but he wouldn't have known that before he committed to playing.
Yeah,
as a business model.
So
hold on. As a business model, that's a pretty smart decision. It's a pretty easy decision.
I'm not condemning him for doing it. I'm saying that I agree with you. If I had the opportunity to go do that, I probably would. He's getting paid to go do that, by the way.
So there's another handle.
Yeah.
Pad my page or pad my wallet.
Yes, absolutely. No. But what? So if you're a person, he's an entertainer. Let's just be frank and honest. He is
absolutely
worth probably $1 billion by now. Who knows? But a lot, hundreds of millions.
A lot.
And so he does things that are not based on principle.
Okay.
It's about a business.
It's about money.
Yeah.
It's a business. He runs a business.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%. If that furthers his business goals, go for it.
Right. But he also doesn't, obviously, he doesn't need the money that he would have received to play at the inauguration. So, I mean, there's a lot of angles to this.
Yeah, but right. So then you could go down and say, okay, he didn't need the money. So it is his principles.
Right.
He aligns
That's
with
what
that.
I said. Yeah. There's a lot of
angles
to it.
Yeah, for sure.
He did
I'd love to sit down and ask him.
And that was part of his thing. He wanted to put it on his checklist of one of the things he was able to do.
Yeah. No, that's great.
So
so my point of all of that is that we should be able to have the opportunity and the freedom to choose to go see Garth Brooks because he supported or didn't support. We should be able to go see, and he should also have the choice to cancel his concerts and give us the money back. I 100% agree with that all the way around. He is one of the few entertainers that hasn't come out and we've talked about entertainers here on the show that hasn't come out and said, do this or else.
Yeah.
You know, and I have a lot of respect for that. Mm-hmm. And that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. That's the point of it. But you need to think about it. Right. It's not just there's just a lot of different ways to go, and you just need to think about it, and you need to know why you're deciding to do something.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our economic section. Planeteer bought 50 million in gold bars in August as cash pile grows. Well, some companies such as Tesla and are diversifying into Bitcoin. Data analytics software company Planeteer is betting on gold. Planeteer bought 50 million in gold bars in August, the company disclosed in its latest earnings statement. The move reflects a growing company's stashing cash in an unconventional asset in response to economic uncertainty spurred by the coronavirus pandemic and government's response to it. I'm not going to read the article. It's not super long. What do you think?
Good for them. Everybody should be buying gold and silver.
It's this could be a really long conversation of the inflation part of it, and I mean they talk about gold as over $2,000 an ounce. So I don't know if they're buying the gold at a super high rate anyway. So, but maybe it's their lack of trust in their banking system. Is kind of how I see that with buying gold and Bitcoin, and it doesn't show a whole lot of confidence in our central bank.
Yeah.
Rightfully so or not. But I don't think it's a dumb idea for them to do that.
I think COVID's kind of ushered in a whole new kind of system as far as that too, and I think that's their intention, is to kind of overhaul like our banking or money systems.
Whose intention?
That's my opinion. I don't know who. who are the powers that be, I guess. But
World
it
Health
seems,
Order?
Do
World
you mean
Health
our
I mean,
government?
yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of an agenda behind it. I think personally.
So this would be bad for our government. Real bad.
I mean, if you
So I
notice,
don't
like
think
during
it's them.
COVID, there was a coin shortage and
There wasn't.
stuff like that. They claim, and even now, like when I've went to get my coffee, big coffee fan, they're always like, "Can we get exact change? Because we need more change." And I'm like, "Is this still a thing? Like, I don't even know."
So there.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Bitcoin's going to be kind of more mainstream maybe in the next few years.
So so this isn't good for the government. This kind of purchase is not good for the government. It's really this trend of Bitcoin and was it Ethereum or whatever. And I'm not a financial analyst. This is not financial advice. This is definitely something that the government wants to get away from. In fact, I think that if the government was smart, they would probably, their investments that they make should be in Bitcoin and take more almost control over it. But instead they're pushing back on it and saying, and they're trying to figure out taxes. I don't know if you've read any about that, but they're trying to figure out taxes on Bitcoin, and some of them even said in the Senate or wherever it was, our government, federal government said that, hey, wait a minute, let's tax where we can, but let's not try to push it, because then what's going to happen is that all those transactions now will go overseas. Mm-hmm. And so let's not push the envelope here. Let's take the $28,000 on whatever and not the zero on, you know what I mean? And so that's the thing that they're scared of. So is this an agenda of somebody? Sure. I don't disagree with that. I think the way the Federal Reserve came about in the middle of the night on an island is scary.
Isn't the whole point of Bitcoin to sidestep the government?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they could tax Bitcoin at this point.
I think it passed. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I have a friend that mines Bitcoin.
Yep.
They do well.
Yep.
Doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they just passed, or they're working on passing. Yep. And they said, they get greedy. And the point is they got greedy and were trying to push for more. And one of the people in the government said, don't keep trying to get more. Let's take what we can so that it doesn't go away altogether, right. Which is wise. So.
And Bitcoin it's getting out there. You had said friends trading, and some guys I know are deep into that stuff. And this spring there was a house that was purchased with Bitcoin down in Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's spreading out there, and Tesla
stopped.
Oh, they did.
They for at least for a little while they were taking Bitcoin, mm-hmm. but they weren't paying out with Bitcoin. They were using cash.
Kind of hoarding it.
Yes.
Because didn't Elon buy a ton of Bitcoin? Like
he did, but also Dogecoin.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the one that made Dogecoin
blow up,
actually survive. But anyway,
because of a tweet or something like that.
Yeah. He created a meme, but
seems like they're getting more away from cash though anymore. I've noticed.
Yeah.
As far as assets.
I agree.
Like when you go to Costco now, there's mostly credit card, or you can't go through this.
You can't carry that much cash into Costco for what it costs you to walk out of there.
You can't use cash there, but same with all the cell cards and stuff, now.
Your mic, try to pull that down a little. I think the microphone.
The mic tone?
Yeah.
So it's a little more traceable. Could that be?
It's a lot more traceable. This is exactly what I read out of Revelations 13. I mean, it's a lot of that, I believe. It's about tracing it. It's about having that mark that they know where everything is, everyone is.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, because sometimes I notice the more I use cash, people kind of look at me funny. Like when I get my coffee, when I go back to my coffee again, they put that big stick out, and I'm like, I have cash. They just look at me kind of
weird. They put a stick out for your coffee?
Well, it depends on who's working. Yeah, but it's like
they don't want to touch it.
Yeah, the thing with the credit card thing comes out on a big stick, and I'm like, you just push it in.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then I just feel kind of okay, and then
Yeah.
But I usually, and sometimes when I use cash, they're just stock. I mean, they don't even anticipate I'm going to use cash. They already have the stick
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
When you're
So is that kind of like
pulling
the
up.
meme with the cashier running the groceries through, and then she's got a big plastic screen, but meanwhile she touched all the groceries.
All of it. Yeah. Yeah. Touch
Exactly.
everything
Yes,
else.
yeah.
and they're
no, I
touching the
know.
coffee and
Yeah.
popping on it. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, let's move on here. Let's do our local segment. John Marshall could have been Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton was among the top 5 options for the Northwest Rochester High School. And if the Rochester School Board had possessed just a bit more foresight, high school students in the city could be singing and dancing to the beats of the Broadway hit Hamilton at prep rallies. Come on, let's be honest.
No. No.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No high schooler is going to be doing that. That's because in
Just the finger
1956, when it came time to choose a name for the brand new high school being built in the northwest part of town, students at what was then the Rochester High School submitted to the board 13 potential names for the school. The top 5 were in order of student preference: John Marshall, Benjamin Franklin, Roosevelt, whether Theodore, Franklin, or Eleanor was not specified, Alexander Hamilton, and Frank Kellogg. The students had submitted the names during their homeroom sessions, and that of John Marshall, the powerful Supreme Court justice, bubbled to the top. The number 13 and thus least popular name on the list, interestingly enough, was Mayo Memorial. The final decision on a name for the new school was made at a meeting on April 13th, 1956. The school board was initially split on whether to opt for John Marshall or Benjamin Franklin. In the end, John Marshall was the unanimous choice, a happy coincidence of school board members and high school pupils seeing eye to eye. But there was no intention to call the new school John Marshall High School. Instead, the board made clear the new school was to be Rochester High School in the John Marshall building. Should I keep reading?
No.
Should we talk?
The only note on this that I would bring up is the fact that there is supposedly a small group of Rochester citizens that want to change the name of John Marshall because he owned slaves.
So that's what I picked up out of this article as well. So how kind of ironic that all this comes up where they're changing college, high school names, street names, removing memorials, different things like that. So
I'm a rocket. I graduated from JM, and most people call it JM, not John Marshall, which whatever. But it just goes back to, I'm just so sick and tired of the woke culture trying to erase our history. Yes, he owned slaves. Let me backtrack. It wasn't uncommon for the upper echelon of our society to own slaves, but they also condemned the practice of owning slaves. So the contradiction there is interesting, but changing his name isn't going to change the history. And I'll guarantee you that 99.99% of the current students and alumni of JM have no idea about him owning slaves.
nor do they care.
Nor do they care.
Yeah.
So why do a few people that are butthurt about it, about our history 150 or 200 years ago, wanted to change history once again?
Yeah.
Let it go. And I'm sorry, the alumni of JM are a pretty proud group, and I think they're barking up the wrong. This small group of people is barking up the wrong tree if they want to change the name of John Marshall.
So I want to just pipe in. So my oldest son's name is Marshall. When we moved to Rochester, we had to make sure we lived in that jurisdiction so he could go to John Marshall High School. So
what's interesting, I want to say this. I don't know the history of John Marshall specifically. I mean, I know of him or whatever, but a very large majority of later slave owners, they did it because it was a better life for those for their slaves.
They had a job.
They would buy them away from other people that they had a job, they had a good place to live. I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, I've read a lot about that over the years, not real recently, but that slaves, founding members of the Constitution, all kinds of things written from the slaves, how great it was to be their slave, that they weren't treated poorly, they, all those things.
Food, shelter, clothing, water.
I mean,
they weren't beaten in the fields down in Alabama or Georgia.
Yeah.
They were.
And so they were doing things to try to change that. Doesn't mean that they weren't guilty of being in society. I mean, that I don't know. It's a hard one, but I'm not saying specifically John Marshall, but in a lot of cases, the people, prominent people like this, they were good, decent people, and their people weren't technically, they were technically slaves, I should say, but they weren't treated as such.
Correct.
They weren't treated as the stereotypical, like
Correct.
the slaves from the movie series Roots.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to
not
put that in
condoning
there.
it.
No, right.
But
it, when history looks back at us, are they going to look back at us in a certain way of, he didn't get the vaccine?
Yeah.
What? You know what I
You
mean?
have a mark on your forehead, or you have lice.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying the vaccine's bad and I'm anti-vax. I just want to say that. I'm just saying that what will history look back on it? I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know.
A taboo.
And when I went to JM, I mean, that was a while ago. I don't ever remember any discussion ever of who was John Marshall.
Right.
I think there may be a portrait in the entry area somewhere around a corner, but it wasn't like his life was celebrated. I don't think they do that at Mayo High School. Everybody knows it's named after the Mayo family, but it's not like they have a shrine to the Mayo. It's a name on the building. And the other, well, it was approved unanimously. The students kind of won out on that one with the school board wanting a different name, but just let it go.
I think I've said this many times
Where
on
does it
this show.
stop?
Where does it stop?
Exactly.
There's a lot bigger things to fight about.
Oh God, yes.
That we should be getting rid of current slavery. Sex slaves we know.
Absolutely.
Recent news in our own state.
Yeah.
Whether I'm not convicting or not, but just there's bigger fights to fight.
Yeah.
More important fights to fight for sure.
Much more important fights to fight.
What's important? What's important at the end of the day? What's important?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has their battles, but is changing the name of John Marshall going to make our society, our town, our world a better place?
Everybody's forgotten who John Marshall is. It's a high school now
It's
in
a
our
name.
city. It's right.
They had a 1977 state high school hockey champion. That's John Marshall.
Right. Good one.
The rivalry between them and Mayo High School, right? And Century, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just bigger fish to fry.
hometown. Wow. So what is important, I mean,
Now, let me say this. It's important to those people. I don't know why. They don't even know why.
Well, they might know why.
Well, they're not saying why.
And they're not disclosing who it is. They just
right.
There's a rumor that there's a small group of people wanting to change the name. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I agree.
wow. Matt, you got to tell people to like, comment, and share. So they
Yeah, I know. We're about to wrap up.
Not hammer that table.
Yeah.
Hammer the table.
No.
The share button. Hammer the share button. Hammer the like button. Do I have the video ready? I was trying. No, I don't. I don't think we have audio.
Throwback Friday.
I didn't set up the audio. But anyway, I would.
So we need to get Martha me. Like you need to get Martha me like one of those little like inflatable hammers.
No,
Matt.
I have the hammer.
Yes.
I
So
have-
when she
I
wants
have-
to slam
where's the
down,
ham-
she
where's
says,
the hammer go?
Where's the hammer? Matt's got a huge hammer.
It's my son made it in high school. Where'd the hammer go?
It's like 3 foot
Oh,
long.
it's back.
Yeah, I think I saw that in
All right.
Yeah.
Hammer's back, I guess, with my son took it back from me.
Oh, he took
It's
the hammer
his.
away.
Hammer time is done.
Anyway, hammer the share button, hammer the like button, hammer out a comment to us of the show. So we're not going to read your comments. Can't get back into the comments specifically for this is part 2 because someone was hammering on the table.
No.
And
Don't blame
we
it on
won't We won't say who it is, but her initials are Martha May. See you next week.